You're listening to an Awkward Human podcast on the 5x5 network. If you want to find out more about this show and all the other cool stuff that we do, visit awkwardhuman.com. Hello and welcome to the Awkward Human Survival Guide. This week we're talking about purple moms,
creepy neighbors,
and sugar daddy accommodations.
Hello and welcome to the episode. I'm Adam Dotchis.
I'm Erica Elson.
I'm dreading this.
Here we are today with Ricard Cardenas.
Ricard.
Why are you dreading it today?
Because yesterday, for you lovely listeners, we had a little bit of a game night, and Erica's boyfriend Jacob started coming up with all these different ways of saying my name, asking like, have they ever called you this? Have they ever called you that?
About how I say your name on the show.
And Erica's like, oh, these are more names I can use for the show. And I'm like, I hate you. So
I like the doubling of the card. You know,
what?
Like
Ricard
Cardenas.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, because he asked me why my parents didn't name me Ricardo, and I said they didn't want to. He was like, but why? And I was like, I don't know. That's just the reason that they gave me. They didn't want to.
But why? Why? I'm 3 years old.
So, yeah. But anyway.
That's the only question I know.
So I think Erica has more ammo now.
I have a treasure trove.
To pick
names,
from, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to do some things up front today and try to remember to do this regularly.
Well, let's just get right into it.
Yeah, let's jump right into it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you got to do it right. The one, I never ask for questions up front and then remember to do it at the end, and then it repeats itself at the end. So I'm going to do it right now, since I never remember before.
I think you always do it up front.
No, we do. I've been doing it at the end like every time, and sometimes the goal was always to try to ask for people to send in questions prior to answering actual questions, since it was relevant. But I feel like, this time you're not fast forwarding yet, so. 509-AWKWARD is the number. Questions at awkwardhuman.com is the email address. Awkward.email is where you can submit anonymously via a form. Of course, we're going to anonymize you or pseudonymize you as requested. Just make sure you say, like, I don't want that in there. We're not going to put any last names in or anything like that anyway, but and we'll err on the side of privacy, but it helps when you give us specifics, especially like if you're a man or a woman or other or...
non-binary.
Yeah, or... the sexuality question. We programmed a lot of things into the contact form just because, and so you can select all sorts of stuff. But if you're not represented, it's trivial to add you. So just let us know. So please send those in. We love hearing questions. We haven't gotten a call in a really long time. We've had a couple of text messages, especially now that that's working perfectly again. So don't worry about it. We've gotten some text messages, but no one's calling 509-AWKWARD. It hasn't happened in a while, so we would really love to hear a question in your voice and your own words. Now, I've been asked specifically, I've been bad about promoting our shop and all the stuff that we've been making, which is stupid because I put a lot of time into it, and I'm not the only one. But Matthias found out that we have challenge coins from a show called The Future, not literally The Future. And it's another project that we did a while ago that actually have something soon that I pretty much finished a big part of yesterday. That there's more of that coming soon. But anyway, we have challenge coins, we have stickers, we have shirts, I think there's a pair of socks. I don't remember what else.
There's stuff, tote bags, everything, stickers, blah.
Yeah, games and...
we have them all.
Yes, but Matthias was like, why didn't you tell me you had challenge coins? And I was like, I feel like I did mention that before, but maybe...
These are like the dick coins and dog coins and stuff?
Yeah, dog.
Dog.
Well, it's spelled with a W.
Yes, it's still dog. You don't say ow, you say aw.
What?
A-W is aw.
Aw.
Not ow.
Yeah, anyways.
It's spelled D-A-W-G, dog.
Yeah, but there's not really a spelling for dog. I mean, maybe it's like D-A-O-U-W-G. Yeah, that's this conversation.
This is very important conversation.
It's really hot, guys.
It is kind of hot. I feel pale.
You feel pale?
I feel like cold on the inside and hot on the outside, when you're about to like throw up.
This is why I can't do the shop. Go
to the shop and buy our stuff.
It's awkwardhuman.com/shop. It helps support us. I don't like to advertise and ask you to spend money on us because I feel like I'm being greedy. but it does help us like actually make cool stuff, and because this shit ain't free. We do it because we like to do it, and we're gonna keep doing it as long as we can, regardless. But if you like listening to the show and you want to help us out and you want to get something cool, we have a lot. Oh, we have art. We have like these art prints that I think they're like almost 200 of them. No, that's an exaggeration. There's somewhere between 100 and 200 art prints, and those aren't that expensive. We try to keep everything as low as possible because a lot of this stuff is print on demand. It's like, we have to make sure we don't lose money when you buy it. So the prices are about as low as it will let us do it until. But if you buy like a lot of one shirt, and we know that's going to sell, if everyone's like buying a bunch of that stuff, we can get it printed, and then we can get the cost down. So you're paying it forward. A movie I found out Richard really likes.
I do. It's so sad.
It's so cheesy.
But it's so good.
If you don't have money, but you still want to support us, you know what you can do? You can rate us on iTunes. And you can get your friends to rate us.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's another good thing.
Mostly the rating.
I think they can rate us on Google and Spotify, SoundCloud.
Well, not on SoundCloud, but we don't. It's not. That's just like
Stitcher.
If we're hosting there. If you can rate on Stitcher, then go for it.
Anywhere
but
you're
Google
listening.
Play and iTunes are useful. Spotify, of course, as well, because we're all up in that. Lastly, before we get into the show, we have an interview today with Mistress Harley Prodom, and she's most famously known as the Tech Dom because she dominates people's computers and finances and stuff. And this was also a recommendation from Matthias. So Matthias, you're contributing a lot today.
Is she also a sub bottom?
I don't think that's the full phrase. I think it was like sub bottom top. I don't know. Darren's not here to answer that question.
Well, I mean, if she was versatile, she could be
you're asking
like
sub bottom.
A top sub bottom.
She just dominates men. As we'll find out in the interview, that she has another request.
That's a throwback joke, you guys.
It is about 2 years old.
Yeah. But I thought I didn't think it was like actually a legitimate question because it was the joke.
It's both.
But that was actually more of a shock hammer joke. So it's if that may have come up more
shock hammer
if you listen to Supercharged. So anyway, that's coming up, and we actually have a question that relates to it, which unfortunately we recorded the interview a week before this episode, so we got the question after, and anyway, we'll talk about that later. In the meantime, we have an awkward story situation of our own. Richard, what have you been up to?
It's not so much awkward as it is infuriating, because... So everyone, if you're on social media, which who isn't, you come across these people who kind of like post these very divisive posts, and we have a friend that has been very extreme in his views, whatever they are about whatever it is. He always goes into this like extreme side, I would say, of his views.
Because we're gonna get to it, I think. Would you categorize it as like militant liberal?
Okay.
But it's militant whatever. Whatever the topic is, sometimes it's not liberal.
Yeah, but it seems to be like under this header of like liberals just need to stop being wimps kind of thing, but it's all I suppose know. I think it's going to come I think it helps paint the picture of who we're discussing here, just because the topic that's going to come up doesn't necessarily say one way or the other, and I don't know. Anyway.
Well, yeah. So anyway, the topic this time, and I had in the past decided that I wasn't going to engage. And like, there are certain people on my Facebook who like, I like some of their posts and stuff like that. And, we're amicable mostly. And so I keep them as friends on Facebook. I keep them as I follow them or whatever. And he's one of these people who I had decided that if they're going to post something divisive, I'm not going to comment on it, because I always end up in these very long arguments, and there's nothing that's ever resolved from it. And I just end up frustrated, and they end up in the exact same place that they started.
Yeah. They used to be resolvable. Like, I haven't jumped into anything like that since, I guess, Trump. But it's...
I think Trump becoming what he has become.
Yeah, it's made everyone just say, like,
yes.
I'm right, period. I'm not... People don't want to waver anymore because they feel like it's dangerous, that something terrible is going to happen.
And we're generalizing. Like, there are some people who still listen, blah, blah, all that stuff.
Yeah, of course. But there's a lot... What you see online is like that.
Right. So he posted this thing about voting and saying, like, if you come across a person who says that they're voting for the first time, do you congratulate them or do you shame them? And so a lot of people were like, no, why would you shame them? And even I posted like, no, you don't shame them. That's all I posted. And I wasn't going to post, but like, it's a personal thing to me as well, because I prior to the 2016 election had never voted. And
what?
Yeah, I just never did.
Actually, technically, you voted in the Democratic primary.
Well, yeah,
but and I think there was we did that after the election. We voted in a local election. We were one of the 11% in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
but I just want to reiterate that he's saying shaming people who've decided to vote in the next election but didn't vote before.
Right.
I want to like you said that. I just want to reiterate that we're not talking about people who don't want to vote and shaming them. He's saying, should we be shaming people who've decided now to vote but didn't before and are doing the right thing? It's just like, how do you even ask this?
It became this whole thing about like, why shouldn't we shame them? And the argument was basically like,
unless they are 18 or weren't a citizen. And I'm like, what if they're 20? Like, even that was like a stupid argument. What if, I voted abroad in my first American election, but it was because I didn't want Bush to get elected, mostly. And I was like, oh, this is cool. It happens to be when I'm 18, so I can vote. But, a lot of people are citizens and don't live here, and it isn't easy to vote when you're abroad, especially now.
And that's the thing. There are so many, laws that are being put into place that it's, voter suppression. It's, harder for people in certain areas to be able to vote and stuff. And they don't make it easy. It's not, an automatic thing. You have to actually register, and it doesn't take that much time or anything. But, you have to actually actively become a voter. It's not just something that happens when you turn 18. But anyway, we had this huge conversation / argument where he's just basically on the side of, I need to shame these people, and everyone on his post is just like, but why do you have to shame them if they're deciding to do the thing that you think is the right thing to do? Then why do you want to shame them? What does that gain you by shaming someone who's decided to do the right thing? They probably already feel shame after they've decided, this is what I should be doing. And you want to add on to that shame. But what does that do for you? What does that do for them?
And he doesn't have an answer to that.
And he doesn't have an answer. And before I told him that this was my first election, I had said, we were getting nowhere with the conversation. And so I basically told him, I'm going to stop feeding this conversation and have a good day. And that was it. And I wanted the conversation to end there. But then he private messaged me on Facebook saying something about don't you feel like you need to do something about America's voter apathy, which is a completely different conversation.
Right. First of all, shaming people is not the way to do something about America's voter apathy.
Right.
Second of all, now he's talking about targeting people who don't want to vote. So, why not motivate the people who want to vote in a positive way instead of shaming the ones who've now decided to vote?
Right.
It's completely opposite mentalities.
What I don't understand is if he's doing this, why ask the question unless you want to troll? Unless that's what he's trying to do is troll. I don't understand why you ask the question of voter should we shame these voters if you don't have any reason whatsoever why it would be useful, other than to yourself in a troll mentality. Because there's if he's worried that we need to shame people who haven't voted until the election to make sure they do it, I don't think that makes sense. I don't think that's going to motivate people after a while. You might be able to like a tiny bit of shame in there, not like Cersei Lannister with a bell shame, but that I can understand reminding people or being remember, it's important. I'm not trying to bug you, but I am trying to bug you because you didn't vote last time and Trump got elected.
Guilting people into it.
Yes, guilting.
Yeah.
Guilting, I think, is that. I feel you could get away with that. I just don't understand what it would do.
I think that the thing is, so during my private, because I didn't message him back for a day because I was like, I told you I wanted to end this conversation, and then you private messaged me, and that is completely not what I wanted.
But then you got bored.
But then the next day I had some free time where I went to a coffee shop, and I was like, okay, let me just deal with this. So I replied to him, and I let him know basically hey, my first time voting was in 2016. Like, it wasn't on my radar to do it before then. Like, the things that were happening, I couldn't see it myself, how they were affecting me. Like, it wasn't like affecting me in a way that was so obvious to me. 1, 2, I was like in my early 20s, really busy doing rehearsals and music and all this stuff that wasn't even on my radar. Politics were nothing that I was thinking about because I was so busy doing other stuff.
Yeah, but just to also, so people don't see that as like a small excuse. You were traveling constantly.
I was traveling around the country, doing like all this stuff, living on a, but like the world, we didn't have the internet freely at that time the way we do now. Like, the information just wasn't coming to me. So like, it wasn't on my radar. I wasn't thinking about it. Like, it never, to me, seemed important. Yes, I know it is, but like at the time, I just didn't know. And so as I got older and started seeing all this like political shit happening, and like especially with Trump and Hillary, like that's when I was like, oh, I need to be doing this thing. So like I turned myself around, I started voting, blah blah, all that stuff. So like I put this story out to him, and I think that he kind of understood it, but he still was like, but why didn't you see it as important? I'm like, were you not listening or reading my messages? I explained it all.
It's a weird question to ask when you just answered that question.
And so eventually I think I might have gotten to him a little bit, because I told him, if it's going to make you feel better, then shame me right now. Like, just go ahead and shame me. I'll take it. I want to listen, and I want you to reflect on your shaming of me and decide if it made you feel better, if you think it made me feel better, if you think it's better for society, or any kind of combination of all of them. Like, decide what it is. And he didn't have an answer to that. Like, so it's like, I understand that people are frustrated and they put these things out onto social media, but like, think about it a little bit. And I know I don't think about it all the time either, but it's just like, when you're doing this thing where you're telling everyone they're wrong for this, I don't know, it's just,
it's weird, because I see a lot of people get angry and overreact and then regret it later or not regret it later, but like they're reacting to a thing that's happening, and that makes sense. But this is like, he's not a stupid person. No. So it's confusing to me that he's acting this way. And
I don't want to invalidate his frustrations, because I get it. I completely 100% understand his frustration.
No matter who you are, is valid. Like,
but it's the fact that you're trying to be like, should I shame people? Yeah. And like, that's what he wants to do. And so it's like, no, that doesn't really help anything.
Yeah. And I mean, if you were listening to the counter argument or whatever, if you were saying this is, okay, well, these are all good reasons not to shame someone. Now I know. It's bizarre to me that the question doesn't just answer itself, but everybody's different.
Yeah, and like, one of the other things that we talked about also was like, why it wasn't on my radar or whatever, and he asked me about like, did I have a civics class like in high school or whatever, and I told him like, no, like LAUSD, the Los Angeles Unified School District isn't the best school district. And I had a government class, but we didn't talk about voting when we had it. We talked about like the different branches of government and all that stuff, but like, we didn't talk about voting and the importance of it and all that stuff.
Yeah, we
did. And my parents didn't talk to me about the importance of voting. Like, I didn't know anything about taxes and debt and all that stuff. Like, I didn't know these like real world things that I was supposed to know.
I tried to learn, and my parents wouldn't teach me.
And so I asked him like, well, because he's kind of like also like going back at me about like, well, did your parents do this? Did they blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, okay, well, whose responsibility do you think it is? Is it the parents? Is it school? Is it friends? Like, whose responsibility is it to get this information out to the younger people? Like, I didn't have anyone telling me. Yeah, so whose responsibility? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, that's the question that you should be asking. And that's the question that you should be trying to find an answer to.
Because the answer is, you're in a demographic where they don't want you to vote. So
exactly.
The Democrats might come after you, but they probably think it's safe because you're in Los Angeles, and the Republicans are going to basically ignore it or try to make it difficult. So it's, now that you live on this side of the city, there's a lot more, I feel like there's a lot more like political activity that's happening over here. And I don't know.
There are a lot more people that care.
I think there are a lot more people that care across the board. So there's probably stuff going on in Inglewood too.
Yeah.
So I just don't know, but I would think like back in the day,
I think when we get into the extreme sides of politics, or like we see someone in power that is on extreme sides, I think that's when we start having our awakenings. I'm sure that's how it was in the past, and that's how it is right now since we have Trump and he's very divisive. People just pay attention more on those times.
It's just like I just remember the all the crap that happened when Bush was elected, and well, granted there were a lot of problems we're still dealing with from then, and I'm not gonna. I never put the economy on a president because I don't really feel like they have a lot of control over that, but like to take credit and blame. I mean, the administrations do, and each side does, but it's like, okay, well, there's a lot going on, and we don't understand any of it that well, so I don't really think we can say Bush or Obama really did anything that it may have happened on its own. They may have done a little bit, but like they can't fix the economy, or they would fix the economy. I think though that like with Bush, it was easy to kind of settle into a sense of complacency, but because Trump just won't shut the fuck up ever. If you don't agree with him or you do agree with him, you're getting riled up by it, and it feels irresponsible to ignore it. And so much like this friend, I feel like, do you say something or do you not say something? And I think like what you said and how you handled it is probably as good as you could have. The only other option that might be better, only because I mean, like for him it might be better that you did what you did, because if he got something out of that
well
helps.
I hope he did. I don't think he did, just because I get notifications whenever there's replies and all that stuff, and I feel like after we had this whole exchange, he was replying to other people in the public forum of it, and still being strongly on his side of we should be shaming people. So I don't know. And people may ask why I still follow this person and stuff. And I finally understand, this person made me understand why people are able to be friends with like Trump supporters and still
you understand
amicable about it, because like I don't think he's a bad person. I think he just has very extreme views on everything, whatever side it lands on. And besides all that, I still enjoy talking to him about things that we actually both enjoy. And he's a nice person. He's just angry right now.
And it's just a tough thing.
But I still can't get over a mutual person we know.
Well, yeah.
Who's a Trump supporter.
Yeah.
Who says shitty things.
I'm having a harder time with that person at the moment.
I don't think I could ever be friends with him.
The person that I know as well?
Yes.
Yeah. But that's like that's a whole nother level than what we're talking about here. Oddly, he's a lot easier to, I think, he's more respectful of people. Well, men. It's really, I have the hardest time with the misogyny. That's the thing that bothers me the most. The rest of it, it's like, okay, I still haven't.
The immigration.
Well, that comes from a place that makes sense.
I know, but that doesn't mean like if someone.
It's wrong, but I can understand why he's there.
If like someone stabs you, does that mean that everyone who looks like they're gonna stab someone but haven't should go to jail? That's a bad analogy.
Well,
I get it.
No, but
he's putting the immigration thing on all races and ethnicities, not just one particular one.
But it's hard, I think, to distance yourself from something that you went from a trauma you went through for that long, and legitimately in his case. And I mean, we probably shouldn't talk too much about this just because no one knows what we're saying, really. But yeah. I mean, but it's a PTSD thing. It's like you whether you recognize it or not, it's gonna be there, and it feels better to just double down on the anger, because then you get this you get a rush of dopamine, basically, if you through righteous anger. It's kind of what allows us to feel like it's okay to hurt or kill somebody, or like a animal, I guess, if you're eating it. But to do things that are otherwise kind of like really horrible to think about. But if you can justify it in your head, your brain squirts some dopamine out to be like, it's okay, you're fine. And I think that's kind of like why people end up there. They find a community around it. It's really easy to like let go of the PTSD and exchange it for like crazy, not good rage. Anyway, I'm curious what other people think about this situation, because I've been thinking about, do you or do you not feed the trolls since the Lifehacker days. So it's been a good 8 some years, I think. And I've never really settled on like what is the right thing to do in these situations, because the trolls are people too. Some of them are funny. Most of them are just assholes. But that's not the only thing that they are. It's just the only thing that we see. So how do you deal with that? How do you all deal with that? No one can see me right now, but I'm gesturing there. One of my hands is on camera. Not that most of you are listening to this. But if you want to watch it, awkwardhuman.com. Wait, no. youtube.com/awkwardhuman. Yeah. There's my gesture.
But the end of that is I am going to try to be more proactive in not engaging. Mm-hmm. Because Erica has also been on the side of arguing with this person.
Yeah.
Then it's not fun.
Yeah, he didn't like that someone brought a dog on an airplane. The dog died.
Start this whole thing.
Yeah, well, what he didn't like is that they thought they should bring a dog on the airplane. Like, oh, it died? Well, you're bad.
But he literally said, I blame the owner.
Yeah.
I believe it was United forcing the owner to lock up a dog. Well, not lock up, but like put a dog in a bin where it obviously doesn't have air. And they're like,
it doesn't not have air in there. It's just not like...
Well, it's closed.
It's closed and you're squashed in between it. I would say it's probably like breathing into a pillow, but not one that's
I think it's suffocated up there.
What?
I think it's suffocated.
Yeah.
That's how
it probably did, but I'm saying it probably could.
You're trying to like argue for...
Well, no, I'm not trying to argue that it was okay.
No, there's some oxygen. He can't live off of it, but there's oxygen.
3 hours worth of oxygen.
Yeah. The circumstance is not that there...
You're arguing a point that doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't. I'm trying to be specific, but yeah, I don't think it would matter in this case. That dog would. The fact that you shove it in between luggage, there are just a lot of reasons not to put a dog or an animal or any living thing in an overhead bin unless it's for like 5 seconds or for some.
Well, anyway, let's just get off of it.
Yeah. Okay, so we have questions again. Awkward.email if you want to. Ask us one. We'd love to hear it, especially if you want to call us. 509-AWKWARD is the number. It translates to some numbers on your phone that I don't remember offhand, but they're on the website if you don't want to do it yourself. So we're going to do this, and then we're going to go to the interview because these two are related. So
our first question is from Gays ISO Daddy Accommodations.
Gays in search of daddy accommodations.
Right.
Wow.
Not ISO like.
Why are they heterosexual then?
Oh, I don't know. You know what? Well, no, this one came in over email, so
they specifically said gays.
Yeah, you know what? I wonder.
Maybe they're asking about the gays.
No, I was probably it probably didn't get set because it came in over email because it only sets if you fill out the form.
Anyways, we're gonna assume these guys are gay.
Wrong.
Subject:
no, they're definitely gay.
Advice for 20 young gays seeking sugar daddy accommodations. Hi, Adam.
20 of them.
And Erica. Please read the following ad.
Well, and Richard, they never say hello to Richard.
I'm reading the question. They could address me. Please read the following ad in detail. Blank. Our question for the show is, how could we maximize our potential in getting the hottest, sugariest, kindest daddy with the luxurious condo to spoil us for one night in a fairly gay city with a population of 2.7 million people? Many thanks in advance. Gays, ISO, daddy accommodations.
I don't know any condo that could fit 20 gays or 20 anything.
It's a lot of gays. It's a lot of people. Sandwiches.
They want to actually fit in 20 of them?
He said advice for 20 young gays.
Yeah, I don't... I think
they're saying like they're 20 years young.
Ooh. Yeah. Let's assume that it's 20 years old.
20-something
or 20 years. Yeah, I don't mean like... that they're 20.
Yeah.
They're 20
Unless
of them.
they have a very big, like, penthouse.
Well, no, I mean, like, I've been in a very big penthouse. My dad used to VRBO, Airbnb, whatever acronym you want, a place in New York, and that's like one of the biggest places that you can get in the city outside of having like a multi. I mean, you could get a bigger. I've actually shot a video in a bigger place in Brooklyn that's like a townhome. You're just not fitting. You're in a city. You're not in a condo. You're not fitting 20 people in there. Like 5 maybe.
You need to sleep?
Well, if you could
like
sleep
beds or just like literally not fitting them in a room.
Well, they
could fit 20
stay,
people
right?
just.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. They're just all gonna have an orgy and like sleep on the floor.
I don't think so. I mean, but even if you're sleeping on the floor, like think about, we can fit maybe like 40 people in this house with standing room. Half of that, I think if people slept on the floor here, even without the furniture in the way, we would still people would be on top of each other, even utilizing the bathtubs. No one in their right mind would do that. It's got to be a safety violation of some kind.
I think it's just two gay men who wanna.
Well, we're gonna assume they're at least
a night
two
out
20-year-old-ish
condo or whatever the fuck they asked for.
Yeah, and I mean the thing, I don't know if they have like an Ashley Madison for gays. I don't know if I'd want to go on that.
I would imagine that they would have something.
There's got to be. I mean, I guess just like any gay app, it's not like it's hard to find.
Go to Craigslist.
People.
Isn't that like the old school way?
That's why they posted the ad, but we can't read it because it's been taken down.
Yeah, and their email address bounced back, so I couldn't get the. Maybe
they found
ad.
someone. And that's why it was taken down.
No, it got flagged for removal because it was against policy.
Ask for a sugar daddy?
It's well, as you're going to find out in the interview. There's a big crackdown lately on what can and cannot be posted in liability and all of that. It's actually really bad. And so a lot of places are cracking down on those things. But yes, you can't solicit money for sex in any way. You can, like, that. Craigslist has always taken down escort posts, but people would use language like, I'll see if I can remember this. It's the last time, it's been a long time since I've masturbated to Craigslist. So I haven't looked at what's currently on there lately. But,
I feel like there are easier ways.
Well, sometimes sometimes people will write things that would be kind of a turn on, but after a while I just got bored with it.
Okay.
But there was, because it was hard to find a picture of an actual person. Most people just post like their dick, and they're usually really bad photos. So it was a big hunt for nothing and not worth it. Anyway, the people who were prostituting or wanted money or something, they'd usually say like generous and then put a $ for the S. Or just not do that because I think people understand what that means. Like, I'm not looking for a generous lover. Otherwise, you just say that. But roses was another thing. Like, looking for someone who will give me a rose. I don't really know how that one happened.
Wow.
Maybe it's like The Bachelor. But
I do not know this lingo.
Those are the two I remember. I think there were more. I don't know if those are still active in the way people talk. But like, I think you have to use secret codes. It's probably why you got flagged. I don't know because I haven't read it. We can't see it. So, the thing is, if you want to get a sugar daddy, I don't think any of us are really the best people to ask. Although the interview that's coming up, is I think what might give you some pointers on like how, if you wanted to make like a killing off of getting money out of horny men. Mistress Harley knows what she's doing. It's hard because you can't actually ask for it. What I would probably do if I were looking for this, and it's hard to know if you're like willing to fuck them or if you just want to be pretty in their company, or like what you're willing to exchange for this free stay in.
Find yourself a Republican senator.
Yeah, well, I mean they're in Canada, so.
Oh.
I don't know.
I didn't remember that.
I don't know which politicians are like more likely to have secret sex scandals. Well, Erica, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it just people are less repressed.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it would be as easy as finding a Republican here.
Well, I mean, if you want to come to America, I grew up in Minneapolis, and I have frequented the airport for flying purposes, where that senator got arrested for soliciting sex in the bathroom stall. And as soon as I was at the airport next, I went to go visit it because I felt like it was an important landmark of my home state. Yeah,
like a rite of passage.
Well, I know exactly where the bathroom is. It's right outside. Actually, I don't remember what terminal is now, but I know what it's like right by where you go down the ramp, and I think it's on by door 3 on the left side, and it was the 2 stalls closest to the door. So unless they remodeled it.
I just feel like there's way too much traffic in an airport to be doing that.
But I saw it on the news, and I was like, I know that bathroom. I peed in there. And I went to go visit it afterwards because it was like, that's so weird that happened, and it's somewhere I've been before. Anyway, I feel like if you're going out and soliciting people yourself, that would be better, because you'll probably... I was trying to search Craigslist, where the area you posted on Craigslist, for another ad that might have somewhat similar language in case you tried again to get that ad up there, but I couldn't find it, and I couldn't find anything like that. But I did find some people looking for that, and or looking for younger couples and older men, and so I feel like you'll probably offend a lot of people. But if you just you have your throwaway email address, which you seem to have literally thrown away because it's not working. Maybe you can contact some people and piss off 80% of them because they're like, I would never hire anybody or sugar daddy or whatever the fuck. So, I think some people get pissed or just ignore you, but you might find somebody that way. And then you don't have to worry about your post getting flagged. But I feel like it's too bad we didn't get this before talking to Harley, because I bet she would have some idea of kind of where these things happen, even though it's not really her area.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, what would you guys do if you were trying to get a free stay out of somebody and you were like some hot 20-year-old boys?
I don't know. The only time I've ever been offered money to do anything was when I was on gay.com. It's a site that I don't know if people are using anymore, but it was one of like those first hookup sites.
It was bad on like when I was on there when I was 15, and it was like, nah, that's not gonna work.
Yeah, I was on there when I was 16, and I got a lot of stuff.
What was that one? It was like Planet Fag or something.
Oh, I don't know that.
What was that called?
But I don't know.
That was the one that I was on.
Don't apps usually work? Like, can't you just like be explicit on an app, like on a Grinder or something, and just be like two young guys looking for an old man who has money?
Yeah, you would just have to be able to transplant your location if you're going somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not hard to do that. Actually, someone who works at Grindr showed me how to do this a long time ago. So, Pete, you guys, if you want to Grindr yourself to your vacation location, let me know. I can at least tell you how to do that.
Erica, how would you solicit a sugar daddy?
As a woman, I feel like all my time would be spent trying not to get raped.
Oh, okay.
That was my thing. When I was in New York, I got solicited quite a bit, and it was, like when I was 20, or actually I was younger, I think. And I got offered $2,000 to like go to a museum with some old guy and just hang out.
I would go to a museum.
Yeah, it just seemed too good to be true that I just ignored it, and I really didn't want to, because $2,000 was a lot of money to me.
I would have someone meet me at the museum at the end of the day so I could leave with them and not get trapped leaving with the guy.
Well, I wouldn't even have a problem like separating myself, but then once they meet you and see you, like, they say one thing and then you get there, they lure you in with $2,000. Sounds like a lure. Like, we're just going to hang out at a museum. And also, I think I met somebody like maybe 3 months later who had gotten a similar email like that and said that they didn't go either because it seemed creepy. So I don't know.
I was offered $200 to deliver pizza in tight jeans to an office, but I didn't take it because I was like, that's really weird.
An office seems like a relatively safe space, but then do you know if it's really an office?
Right.
Oh, I would totally do that.
Where was it? I mean, this is before. I mean, this is like right when Google Maps was happening.
It's not an office, and then they chloroform you instantly.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you'd take precautions. But that's something like I feel like I could take proper precautions with. Mm-hmm. I would go out of my way and like cover up my license plate or park really far, not too far. But I can outrun people, so I'm not really worried about it. It's I guess, I mean, all that stuff just seems kind of. I'd rather do it through an app where there's some protections at least. Like, that's why I wish we'd legalize prostitution. Not because I think it's great for everybody. I think, you really need to be in a certain place in your life where you can do that and not feel like you're being degraded. And, a lot of people in America want to do that. And if you're not into being degraded, then it's not exactly a fun experience. So I think prostitution shouldn't be entered into lightly or anything like that. But I think it would be a lot safer if we legalized it and like had some laws around proper treatment, but that would involve protecting women rather than men, which is not a popular idea in this country for some reason. So that is what it is. I would just say, like, if you're going to do this, we probably should have said this up front, but please be as safe as possible. I don't want to, like, encourage finding a sugar daddy, not because there's anything that I think is ethically wrong with that if everybody's consenting to it, but because it can be dangerous sometimes. Then again, this is in Canada, so maybe it's not so dangerous in Canada.
Yeah, people still get raped in Canada.
Well, no, I know, but I mean, like, it's not America. It's not. There's less. I feel like there's less to worry about in Canada.
I don't think there's less to worry about. People are just less conservative. That doesn't mean there's no danger.
No, but how many people get murdered in Canada versus here?
Well, less, but, whenever people are talking about school shootings, I'm like, well, there were 3 school shootings in my city in my lifetime, in one city. So it's not like it's perfect.
No, I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm just saying, like, the level of paranoia I would have in the United States about something like this is much higher. Much higher than it would be anywhere else where it's not like where they won't stone you for being gay or anything. Like not.
Yeah.
Any America-like society. Because in Europe, if it's in Europe, I'm like, okay, whatever. I mean, I guess it depends on where in Europe. I'm generalizing, and it's easier to say that about places I don't live. But anyway, sorry, that was not helpful. Probably, I hope that.
Let's listen to the interview.
Yeah, we'll go on to the interview, and hopefully, Mistress Harley can give you a little bit more to go on than we can. We are speaking with Mistress Harley Prodom, and would you prefer Harley or Mistress Harley? I guess when we're
Mistress Harley.
Mistress Harley. All right. So Mistress Harley is a tech dom, and you're also a financial dominatrix. And what are those?
That's right.
What do those things mean? What does that entail? What do you do?
Okay, so as a financial dominatrix, instead of dominating men's bodies, like with traditional whips and chains, like you might think of with BDSM, I dominate their finances. And so that often means they pay me money for very little reason or for no reason at all. They create debt contracts with me where they owe me certain amounts of money that they have to pay me over time. A lot of men even give me total bank control access where I can control their accounts and write myself checks from their accounts or use their credit cards. And the whole point is that it's the ultimate form of submission. We all know that money is power. And so if you want to exchange in a truly meaningful power exchange dynamic, then giving your money to a woman just to increase her power is a sexual fetish that some people enjoy.
Yeah. It was funny when I heard about you and what you do. On one hand, I was not surprised at all. It seemed completely I totally get that people want this, and then on the other hand, I'm like, how do they afford it? But I guess with some people just have so much money to give that they can afford something like this. And I suppose do you feel like, is there any baseline of the type of people that end up enlisting your services? Because I mean, obviously they have to have money, but
they're definitely men.
Yeah.
I have yet to have a woman approach me to give me all of her money. Although, ladies, I am open. But typically, they're men from any age, 18 to, I think one of my older submissives is in his 70s or 80s. Some of them, I don't know where a lot of their money comes from. I don't ask. It's not important to me. But some men, will send me as little as $20 or $10 at a time. And other guys send me literally hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time. And so it really just depends on somebody's financial situation as to how much they can pay. But the point is often not the amount so much as it is the sacrifice to the person that is providing the money.
I see.
So, for some people, $20 is a lot of money, and that's a really big sacrifice to make to their dominatrix. And for other men, $10,000 isn't that much money. And so, we kind of find that middle ground when we start a relationship. That's what somebody can afford, what they can provide, what I will accept, and we go from there. That's
interesting. So do you just take on clients with any financial capabilities? So if someone wants to do this and they can't afford much, then it's kind of like a sliding scale?
In some ways, yes, and in other ways, no. So a lot of men send me money without ever contacting me or speaking to me. So, if you want to anonymously send me $10 or $5, I don't care. That's still money. But I'm not going to talk to you. You're not going to be a slave that I consider owned and part of my stable of slaves that I communicate with and am involved in their lives in terms of, decision making. So the minimum to actually be a slave, an owned slave of mine, is $100 a week. And so that's $400 monthly. And so that's kind of my bare minimum if I'm going to interact with somebody.
Okay.
But like I said, a lot of these men, they spend more or they spend without me even speaking to them. So I accept all money. All money is good money. But if you want my actual attention, it does require a significant investment.
Gotcha.
So you had mentioned that you do charge a fee, but then on top of that, you can also go into their bank accounts and start making transactions and giving yourself, I guess, more. Those transactions, are they permanent transactions that you keep, or how does that get negotiated?
Well, that's a situation that only happens with long-term slaves. So that's someone that's already been paying me $100 a week. So I already know that they have resources that are worth my time. And typically what happens when they hand over financial control, like their bank account, is we end up negotiating a budget for them. So I make them provide a budget to me of their required expenses every month, like rent and food and insurance or any of your other expenses. And then we figure out the amount of disposable income this person has. And then I work with them to really what's the word I'm looking for, to really streamline like their income so that they can actually give me the most amount of money. And sometimes, like if someone's really overweight, I'll put them on a diet and cut down their food budget. And I'll say, okay, you're super fat, your food budget's cut in half, you have to only buy fresh vegetables and, other items that I designate. And so we work together to create a financial situation that's sustainable. And of course, not everybody stays with me for years and years and years. I have some slaves that serve me for a month or 2 months or 6 months. And then they say, okay, this is no longer financially viable for me. But I might come back. I might get another job and come back. I might sell my car and come back. And so I kind of have what I would call like a rotating stable of these kinds of submissives.
So can you walk us through a little bit, I guess, what you start dominating somebody for $100 a week and then you get more integrated into their lives. Can you walk us through kind of I don't know if there would necessarily be like an average experience here, but I guess as close as you can come to that sort of thing. Like if I were to sign up, what would be the onboarding process?
The onboarding process. We would discuss your specific fetishes and your specific limits. Okay. So, just like regular BDSM, there is a negotiation about what is acceptable and what is crossing a line. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, a lot of men are into like blackmail type of fetishism or play where like they give me their mom's phone number and they tell me that if they don't follow instructions, I should call their mother and expose them for being like a pervert. Wow. And so, but for other people, that's like a really scary, edgy thing. And so that's a really common limit that men place with me where they say, okay, I want to give you my bank account, but I don't want any blackmail. I don't want you to call my mom or my boss or anyone I know. So we would have that discussion, and then we would discuss like what your budget was in terms of how much money you would be able to give me every week. And then I would just check in with you every day. Actually, you would check in with me. I always tell my slaves it's their responsibility to contact me, not the other way around. So you would check in with me daily and say, hi, Mistress Harley, how are you? Is there anything I can do to serve you today? And I might give you some like assignments, again, depending on your fetishes. So if you really like dressing up as a woman, I might tell you, okay, you have to go buy underwear. Or if you really are into financial submission, I might say, okay, today I want you to find 5 items in your house and sell them for me on Amazon or eBay or whatever, doesn't matter. And so that relationship kind of evolves. And as I speak with someone daily, little by little, I get to know them. They get to know me and what I expect. Mm-hmm. I have certain boys that are responsible for like my visits to the nail salon, or I have boys that are responsible for my visits to the hair salon financially. And so we kind of work out a process that works for everybody. But ultimately, they, even if they don't talk to me every day, they receive the sexual satisfaction of knowing that their money is going to me. And, that's what they receive out of the relationship.
Do you ever come across a situation where someone might be putting more out there than they can actually afford? And do you ever kind of like intervene in that kind of a situation?
No, I wouldn't say I've come across that situation because people can only spend the money they have. Mm-hmm. So like I have a slave, for example, that lives in Kentucky, and is on retirement, so very like limited income. And so he can only ever afford to send me like $50 at a time. But we both know that. And sometimes he takes weeks or even months off to rebuild his financial situation and then comes back. But I think ultimately, like, you can't spend money that you don't have. I'm sure some people spend themselves into debt. And there are people who have sexual debt fetishes. So for them, it's sexually satisfying to know that they are going into debt to pay me.
That's really interesting. I always, whenever I hear about fetishes, new ones, which that's a new one for me. I'm always fascinated by, like, how did these things develop? I mean, like, I wonder what are the events in someone's life. I mean, we don't really know anything about it yet, but I'm curious. I'm curious to find out someday, like where some of these things come from, because it's so interesting. I'm curious too, like. One thing I think probably that comes up with a lot of any sort of sex work or sex adjacent work is ethical stuff. And just having heard you talk so far, what starts off as something that people, I think, would come up with a lot of ethical questions starts to feel really, and then, like, you take a lot of care to make sure that these people are okay, which is wonderful.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't go that far. I would say that I do feel responsible up into a point to negotiate with people and make sure that everything is consensual.
Well, yeah,
but
exactly.
in BDSM, people do all kinds of insane things. They put needles through their skin. They get whipped until they're bloody. Anyone can argue the ethical nature of hurting some BDSM is just that there has to be consent, not that you can actually hurt somebody, right?
Yeah. And I guess all I'm saying is not everybody even goes that far on the consent front these days. I mean, obviously we've seen quite a bit of that, but it's I don't know. When I say that you care enough to do that, I obviously you're dominating people, so there has to be some badassery in there, of course. But I think like it's such an important factor for people to realize. I just wanted to highlight it. I guess you didn't do this forever. You didn't get out of college and think I'm gonna dominate men financially. You were working as a product manager, right?
I was working as a technical project manager in the high-tech industry, and I was also finishing my master's degree in library science and information technology and working part-time as a librarian. And I was in the BDSM scene. I lived in San Francisco, and I was in the BDSM scene in San Francisco recreationally for my own pleasure. And people started approaching me to pay me to do sessions with them, traditional BDSM, whipping, beating, that kind of stuff. And that became so financially viable for me that I made a website, got online, and then I started to discover the fetish of financial domination. And I really just thought, that's the smartest thing I've ever heard. And so I threw my master's degree in the trash, and I've been a professional financial dom and pro dom ever since.
That's just kind of, it's hard not to be impressed with that. Are you the only one that's doing this? Because because I've never heard of anyone else doing it. But you've carved out an entire industry for yourself, pretty much.
Financial domination has been around for a lot longer than I have.
Okay.
I like to think that I've kind of revolutionized it a little bit, and that's where the tech dom aspect of what I do comes in. Like you said, I was working as a technical project manager, and so I have a high-tech background and expertise. And I started thinking of how could I more efficiently and remotely dominate men, both their bodies and their bank accounts. And I came up with this idea of a tech dom, which is also my trademark, even though many other women have started using it illegally. But so I started creating a software suite, which is multiple pieces of software that work together in order to take over someone's computer, take over their digital life, their data, their social media, their online bank accounts. Everything's online now. So if I can get into your computer, I can take over your entire life.
Do you ever do anything, or do they ever request you to do anything where, because I know that like humiliation is can be something that is fetishized for some people. Do you ever do anything like that on social media to them?
Absolutely. I've posted people pictures of them wearing panties like on their Facebook. Again, this is all pre-negotiated.
Right.
So these are not things that were a surprise or not consensual. Or I posted pictures of people on Twitter. On my website, mistressharley.com, I also have a loser hall of shame where I post people's pictures, their driver's licenses, pictures of them dressed up like a girl. Basically anything that could be remotely humiliating for those slaves that are really into that kind of public humiliation. And if you're into public humiliation, more people can see you on my Twitter, because I have 50,000 followers at TechDom, than if I paraded you down the street. So, the internet has really created a viable environment for people to have like sexual freedom and have experience with these fetishes. Cesta and FOSTA passage aside.
What were those last things?
I was saying, aside from CESTA and FOSTA, the Stop Sex Trafficking Act that was just passed in Congress that's removing sexual freedom on the internet.
I didn't know about that. I'm gonna have to look that up after.
Yeah, it's a bill that recently passed that was supposed to stop sex trafficking, i.e. the trafficking of non-consensual sex slaves. However, the bill was so broad that it includes any website that could be posting a personals for a sex worker. And that's why Craigslist has shut down their entire personal section. Backpage has shut down their entire personal section.
Oh, wow.
Basically, everywhere that sex workers advertise has been closed down and cannot be posted in the United States anymore.
Oh, wow. I when you were describing that, I remember something like this, and that's well, I mean, what isn't insane these days? But
it's the first step to total censorship of sexuality on the internet, and so people should be really worried. Even like apps like Tinder, like everyone's going to lose their hookup apps. Everyone's going to lose the way they used to like meet people and have sex, whether money was exchanged or not. And that's part of how this administration is not only subjecting sex workers to like ultimate discrimination, even fully legal sex workers, but they're taking away people's ability and rights to express themselves sexually on the internet.
Oh boy, it's just like every day you think you get a breather from some of this stuff, and then there's just something new.
Nope, sorry.
What would you recommend anything people could do to kind of fight back against this, aside from, I mean, I'm glad we're talking about this because now, some more people will know. But, sorry, I guess what I was trying to ask, what would you recommend people do to kind of fight back against this kind of legislation?
Call your congressmen, elect Democrats in the midterm election, vote for liberals in the 2018 election, tell people that you care about all the strippers, porn stars, and sex workers that are doing fully legal sex work in the United States and are now being able to be prosecuted as criminals. And, call your congresspeople. There are petitions online. But if you watch porn, which is everyone, you should care about this bill.
Yeah. God, I'm glad we talked about that. I didn't know it was that terrible.
Oh, don't worry. I wasn't going to let this interview go without bringing it up.
Well, good. Now I forgot a whole nother question I had. But I guess getting back to the tech dom stuff, how when you let people in, or I should say when people let you in. How do you set everything up with them? Like, are you installing software on the computer? Do you send them to like a website where they can download everything and get set up, or do you do any actual hacking? Like, how does that play out?
I don't do any actual hacking because I think that that's too borderline on the edge of non-consent. Mm-hmm. What I have people do is they download a screen sharing software that's used for business. Like a really popular one is TeamViewer, AnyDesk, Remote PC, right? I can use any of those. And basically once I'm in someone's computer, I take administrative control. I create an admin account. I take control of the account. I demote their account to a subordinate account. Then I install keyloggers to get all of their passwords and account information. I install website filters so they can only view the websites I want them to view. I typically put some parental controls in place. So, for example, mine is the only website of a dominatrix that they could go visit. I also install payment enforcer software, which means that if they don't pay me X amount of dollars on X amount of days, their entire computer gets locked. And I basically encrypt all their files so that at no point can they escape my control. And then at that point, now I can go into their web history, look at all their websites. Everyone saves their logins, so I go and look at all their passwords. I look at their Facebook, their social media. I find out everything about them, where they live, where they work. Oftentimes, I find things like tax returns, social security information, resumes and employment information. So at that point, I have total control of somebody. And if they want to leave my service, they then have to pay usually an exorbitant amount of money to get out of this arrangement.
Okay. And do you have them sign contracts or anything? Or like how, I assume there's probably like some legal stuff you got to work around in certain cases with this to just make sure that you're protected in case someone gets upset.
I have a lawyer. I have the same lawyer that represents the National Coalition of Sexual Freedom and other sites like kink.com. Mm-hmm. And so I clear all this stuff with them. Basically, because I have it in writing that somebody has requested me to do this to them, and then they pay me for the privilege of having this happen, there's pretty much no way that I can get in trouble for this action. Mm-hmm. Some guys do like contracts. They are contract fetishists. And I do have like a legal debt contract that my lawyer has drawn up that allows, it's basically like a mortgage where it says I owe Mistress Harley X number of dollars paid at this amount of interest over X number of years, except there's no initial loan. So it's all the payback paperwork without the loan, basically. Gotcha. But that's a legally binding contract. And theoretically, I could sue someone. I could take them to court. I could sell that to a debt collection agency if someone doesn't pay me. Wow. So there are some legal issues for sure, but ultimately, as long as consent is demonstrated, I don't think that there's any court in the world that would say that this was a non-consensual activity. I liken it to if you invite me into your house and you tell me to take your TV from you, I have not stolen your television. But if I come into your home without your knowledge and take your TV, that's theft. And so that's pretty much the difference. When it would be hacking if I did this without your consent, without being invited, without being paid. But all those things are in place, so you can't argue that this is hacking or not consensual in any way.
Yeah, I was just worried, like maybe there's a paper, you have a paper trail, so it's all good. But yes. I guess I didn't think about that. You've got everything all figured out.
Oh yes, I do.
I remember, I got one more question for you. I remember what I was going to ask earlier. When you're posting embarrassing photos of people on, it sometimes goes through their Facebook account or Twitter or whatever, right?
Absolutely.
So if you're posting on their site, their account, does it happen often enough? Like, do you get to see what the reactions of their friends are? They're like, oh, they're at it again. After a while?
Sometimes. And some people obviously have already done something along these lines before. Exposure fetishists, just like flashers, they find ways to expose themselves. And so oftentimes I'm not the first one who's done something like this. It's not a really frequent request, but it is definitely on the board, for sure.
It's the whole thing is just so interesting. The spectrum of humanity. It's very broad what we can be interested in and enjoy, and it's amazing what you've been able to do with that. If people want to go check you out, where's your website? What should people go to online to find what you're up to?
My website is mistressharley.com, or you can find me on Twitter at TechDom. Cool.
All right. Well, Mistress Harley, thank you so much for joining us today. It was very enlightening.
It was a pleasure.
We have a couple links in the show notes. If you want to check out Mistress Harley's stuff, and also if you want to get into the political part of that conversation a little bit more. So check those out at 5by5.tv/awkward/206. And now we got two more questions before we wrap up today. The next one comes from Jack, who is a 25-year-old male heterosexual. I really need to write these so they're not so cumbersome anymore. Anyway, Jack writes, "Hey, I have this new neighbor who is a spy. He moved in last month to the house next to my building. It's a triplex if you count the old woman who lives in the garage. He does not..."
We do.
Yeah. he does not trespass, but just stands around a lot and like just stares all the time. He doesn't peep or skulk, and does that make him not a spy? I'm just saying he is always watching everybody. I'm having trouble reading again today. I went to say hey once, and he just did this thing with his lip and said not interested, but then kept staring. So I stared back for like 10 seconds, and then I just walked away. This is hard for me to ignore now because I see him doing it like always. He goes inside, but I bet he's watching, and he's outside a lot. Sometimes he reads the paper, but all the other times he's just looking at everything. Periods. I don't know how to do that.
Looking at everything.
I feel like it sounds right in my head, and then out of the mouth it doesn't.
Because you're monotone.
Yeah, I need more energy. Looking at everything. Okay, that was something.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, all right. Well, we got a range now. I don't think there's a law against it. He's not loitering on his lawn naturally. Can I do anything? It's really creeping on me.
No.
Yeah, you can't really do anything.
I don't think you can do anything.
Here's a question for you, sir. Do you think that your toothbrush has been tapped? Do you think that your tinfoil hat keeps the aliens from reading your mind? Because I think you're just a little bit paranoid about something that isn't happening.
I don't get paranoid out of it. I get like I get like this. This seems a little OCD to me.
I don't think it's OCD. I think he's just like looking for something that's not there.
Yeah, I think he's looking for something that's not there as well. I don't know if it's paranoia, but it's like he thinks his neighbor is kind of creepy, so he's just decided he's a spy. Lots of people are creepy.
I think he's legitimate. Like I think it's legitimate to, if you saw some guy staring out at you on the lawn all the time.
I mean, how old is this person? Is he an old person who's like retired or something? Who's like maybe just like enjoys being outside and like people gazing? Because I do that sometimes. I mean, not.
Yeah, but you don't make like prolonged eye contact with somebody like that. This just the way that I mean, I don't know. It could be any of these things, but it reminds me of all those horror movies where someone's standing out on the lawn and staring. Like that's the first thing that popped in my head when reading this, is that it's like some sort of horror movie thing. I don't think that's really the case. I think this guy's probably just weird, and there's nothing to worry about.
He's probably just worried someone's going to get on his lawn.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think he's just kind of creepy.
What?
I think he's just a little creepy and like doesn't realize that he's staring at people in a creepy way.
Yeah, no, that's all. Maybe he does realize it, and he does it so
care.
people will not come up to him, which I guess backfired. But it's like I think you just got to let it go, Jack. Yes. I think you're gonna have to like figure out a way to meditate the stress of this away, because he's not going to stop doing it. It seems like he's not doing anything he shouldn't be doing. So unless you feel like it's somehow ethical to, and it's not, but that you think that it's somehow ethical to blackmail him into not staring at people, or call the police to his house to be like, hey, this guy is being creepy, because they'll show up eventually. Even if it's a stupid call.
I think you just gotta wait for a murder,
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's one of those things, though.
Because then you'll know you were right.
I feel like movies do this, though, because it's the horror movie where there is a murderer who stands on the lawn waiting to just scoping out everything. I think that I just had another idea, but I feel like the moral of those films are always like, there are always people, oh no, you're just being paranoid, and then you end up being like the protagonist in a horror film.
Yeah, it's like Disturbia all over again.
You should have just had him taken care of before he did anything. And so that's like the moral of those, and I feel like that's where this mentality comes from.
Yeah, you need to put A Good Neighbor down. That's a video game. And get out into the world a little bit. Maybe you need to leave the house.
It does feel like the person who is paying more attention to the situation is you, Jack. But that may just come across in the email that way.
Maybe you just need to hit the road, Jack. Never
I
come
hate
back.
you.
Well, I can't help but wonder, like, is the guy renting the house? I don't want to put ideas in Jack's head, though, because I feel like if I knew a little bit more information about who he was, it might be easier to say, like, is this guy, like, maybe this guy is scoping out homes, and he's just, like, he's Airbnb-ing this place, and he's scoping out homes nearby to, like, have robbed, that he's, like, the informant to those people who, who wait till the kind of robbers who wait until you're gone. They case the house for a month, get a schedule together. Like maybe he schedules and then sells the schedules to people.
So you basically need
I doubt it, but that's
you basically need to Kevin McAllister your home and make sure that you're ready for him when he comes in trying to rob you.
Or maybe just tell the old woman who lives in a garage to put on like a troll costume or a witch costume and go over across the street and be like, I'm cursing you if you come over here. I don't know. I'm working with what we got.
Next.
What is it?
Anonymous.
I thought that was the last one.
14-year-old heterosexual writes.
Hola.
Female. My mom is starting to look like a grape. Is it
A
diabetes?
grape?
It's all the time, not just when she's mad. She's more like a tomato then.
Can you get... Does diabetes turn your face purple?
I don't think so.
Not that I know of.
I think something changes color.
Fists to the face to turn your face purple.
Yeah, why would you be purple? I mean, like, Alex Jones has to get angry to be whatever color he turns into. I mean, it's debatable. He's kind of like a mood
Maybe she's
ring,
just
but
holding
they're
her breath for
bad
too
news.
long.
She just has a skin condition.
Yeah, maybe that. Maybe it's her makeup.
I guess we should have Googled this first. Because, sorry, microphone.
Purple face.
Yeah,
It's the new blackface.
Although, I guess, illness. What turns your face purple?
Oh God, cancer.
Ew.
To find
We
just a
are
million
not
things.
doctors and we are not giving medical
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah, we're just doing what you would have done.
There's
is
actually
Google.
something for purple skin. I really didn't think that there would be anything.
What is
It's
it?
a symptom of argyria. I've never even heard
There
of
you
that.
go.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Argyria or argyrosis is a condition caused by excessive exposure to chemical compounds of the element silver or to silver dust. Okay, so...
Oh, is your mother snorting silver?
I mean, like, this is really gross. I feel like if she was purple because of argyria, it would be... I mean, like, it looks like a person turned into a metal person. If you can see.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
She just said she looks like a grape. She didn't say she's super purple.
Yeah, this doesn't sound
Oh
like...
yeah, is it a green grape? Is it a reddish grape?
Is it
Like
blue
Oh, it
grape?
could be low levels of blood oxygen or broken blood vessels.
see, that's what I said. She's holding her breath for too long.
Well, I don't think that would. I don't think that actually lowers your blood oxygen. I don't think you can hold your breath long enough to have an impact. But we could go test it downstairs.
Have you thought of telling your mom she looks like a grape? Maybe she doesn't know, and maybe she does need to go to the doctor and find out.
It's a 14-year-old. I mean, I think that's legitimate.
If you were 14,
no, it's a legitimate thing to say, but it sounds like you're maybe shaming her a little.
Oh no! I'm not like saying, "Oh, you're such a bad daughter for not doing that." I'm like, I think maybe the way to solve the problem is starting the conversation, because then your mom may not have
That's
actually
too practical.
realized that she looks different.
I mean, I would definitely say something because when I Googled purple face illness, it's like the stuff that comes up here is scary.
Sometimes it's way easier to notice something about someone else than about yourself. And if your mom's
Yeah.
been really stressed or whatever, and that's part of the cause, she might not have time to like check her face and make sure it's the same as usual.
Yeah, because you probably don't like look at your pee and your poop and think, is everything good today? Maybe you do, but you know, like not you know, even if you're us, or I don't know about you, Richard, but the two of us.
I don't evaluate my poop too much.
Yeah, so I mean, like if you're looking at it and thinking if it doesn't like smell different or isn't like it didn't turn like black or something, then I feel like you're probably gonna just not notice it. And so most days I forget to think about it, but then if it pops in your head, oh, what if this thing is happening? And then I'm like, oh, I wonder, was my poop too pale today? Does it look like it's black and I had too much iron? What's the shape like? If you have reasons to think about it.
Big raindrops right now.
Oh, that's something.
So like small chunks.
No, they're pretty big, but they're just kind of raindrop shaped.
Well, so you're just
Squeezing at the end?
Yeah, like a frozen yogurt
Like
dispenser.
the tip is pointy and the top is round.
Well, you just need to relax your sphincters a little bit more.
That's hard.
Just let the poop fall out of you.
It doesn't.
Well, if you read Anal Pleasure and Health, which one of you did, and we never interviewed you about it, and we got you that book, so where you been? I guess we have to reinitiate that challenge. So if anyone wants to read Anal Pleasure and Health and then be interviewed about it on the show, get in touch, awkward.email, etc. So I think Erica's right, though, that you should probably ask your mom about it, and if you have already, if you have a dad in the picture or another adult, you could ask if mom's just kind of like...
Or another mom. Jeez, heteronormative much?
Why is it another adult?
Yeah, but that sounds like a friend.
Well, probably not necessarily a friend, but maybe like an aunt or uncle. But sure, if you have another mom, or if you have two dads and a mom, or there's Jesus and a goat.
Or if you live in a commune.
Yeah, whatever.
And you have a ton of moms and dads.
Whatever family situation you got, or whatever adult you can trust, if mom's doesn't seem like she's in her right mind to deal with purple face, then talk to somebody else about it that maybe can help, because if there's something wrong, you're probably going to feel a lot better if you're overactive about it. I mean, like a lot of the time it's nothing, much like Jack's situation probably is nothing.
No, he probably will be murdered.
Well, let's
You
hope
gotta
not.
hit the
'cause
road,
I
Jack.
feel a little guilty about that one if that happens. But,
No, you're fine.
well,
I mean, we don't know. We're not professionals.
I mean, the reality is we're not going to find out if he gets murdered.
That's
'Cause
true.
if he's dead, he's not going to
So
tell
our
us.
conscience is clean.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all good.
Thank you, 14-year-old.
Shame on us.
Ding, ding, ding.
Well, that's the show. Thanks for listening. If you're just listening and not watching, go on over to youtube.com/awkwardhuman. We're not getting a lot of viewers because I haven't really been talking about it a whole lot or trying at all to get people to watch it. But I want to get some feedback on like what you would rather be seeing. I feel like most people are listening in the car or on the go.
Channing Tatum in a Speedo.
All right, well, we'll overlay that. Okay, does that exist? Well, it's got to exist.
Of course, he did
Yeah.
Michael's magic penis.
Yeah.
What is it? Magic Mike.
Magic Mike. Yeah, you just got it backwards, and
Actually,
you can
I'm not
stop
attracted to that.
to
Him
what?
in a Speedo.
I'm not attracted to anyone in a
Or, like,
Speedo.
in a
I feel like men
thong,
look
like-
weird in that.
That movie did not do anything for me.
I feel like men need something on the legs.
Did it do anything for you, Erica? I know a lot of women
was
really
still
loved
recording?
XXL.
I didn't like it. I didn't find
Is that the
XXL
second
attractive
one? Yeah.
at all. I thought that was really like.
I didn't like it. Yeah.
I thought.
I think I did like it, but more in a like I'm amused kind of way.
Yeah, you did like it, and then I watched it, and I was like, really? Yeah, like I like this less than Erica.
So you weren't
I'm not-
attracted to what they were doing?
I'm not attracted to Channing Tatum.
I'm not,
No, but, like,
at
all of them,
I
they
thought
were
he
all
was
doing, like, different
good-looking in
things.
The first one, I thought he.
I just don't find him
in the first one.
attractive. He's too much too plain looking for me.
Oh, plain.
He looks like the all American boy.
He was just. I just liked how nice he was, and I think that in the first movie, I mean, he wasn't mean in the second movie, but in the first movie, he was like really nice, and sometimes his pants were falling off a little bit, which was,
Even his
for
hair,
some
like
reason,
there's never anything out of
attractive to me.
place. It's just like short hair.
But
The face is exactly like you'd think it would be. Like there's
I
just
like
nothing
short hair.
unique. But it's not the length. It's too like
Corn
Like
corn fed. What do they call them?
I don't know.
Farmer boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
There's nothing out of place.
I like everything.
There's
though.
nothing like special. He
Okay.
just looks like a good-looking American.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, tons of people like him. I don't need to. Like, it's
Yeah,
not
no,
like he
you
needs
don't.
my approval.
No,
I'm
you
sure
like-
Channing Tatum is just fine
No,
without me.
You can have
He and his wife just got
Gosling.
divorced or are
Exactly.
getting divorced. They're
As a
separated.
character from Half Nelson, don't want to spread any rumors
For
about
all you gossipers out there.
But, like, Ryan Gosling's face is way more interesting than Channing Tatum's.
He definitely has a more interesting face.
Right,
Channing
so-
Tatum kind of has a dopey face.
There's lots of people out there who like Channing Tatum. He doesn't need me. He's doing just fine.
I just feel like that guy's got it. He just seems like a nice guy. I mean, I don't know who he actually is, but just like he has a sense of humor, and seems like a good guy, and he's in good shape and whatever, and he can do weird dance shit.
My taste is definitely going
And
way on the nerdy side
And he
recently.
he was in a gimp costume at one point. I just
No, thank
I just
you.
respect the guy and his
All right,
choices.
we're done here. So
Yeah.
we're gonna go. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Do you have a question, story, comment, or whatever for the Awkward Human Survival Guide? We want to hear it. We read everything we get on the show, censored for your privacy if you wish, and might laugh about your problem because tragedy loves humor, but genuinely want to help you out. If you've got something to share with us, even if you think it's stupid, send it in as anonymously or proudly as you wish. You can do all of that at awkward.email. You just go to http://awkward.email. Oh yeah, and watch the videos on YouTube, youtube.com/awkwardhuman.